Good morning to one and all. Today we are going to discuss about the topic constructors. Here we are going to discuss about the constructor and the types of the constructors. Let us see what is constructor. What is constructor and why we have to use the constructor. A constructor is a special member function in C++ that plays a crucial role in initializing object data members when they are created. So what will be the definition? Constructor have the same name as the class they belong. First, what we're saying is constructor is a special member function. It is a special method. We are going to use it as member function in our program. So our program consists of only classes and object. We are going to create class and we will create many number of functions to implement our programs in a simpler manner. So we are saying to create the functions, many concepts we have undergone. So here this constructor means it is a special member function. So once we are creating the class, we used to create the member function, member variables, everything. So while creating it, will be the special member functions in C++. So what will be the definition? Constructor have same name as the class they belong. So how we are going to define the constructor name is what is the class name, that is the constructor name. We have to create the constructor name as it is the class name. About the return type, there should not be a return type, that is whether it is an void or int. No return type for this constructors, and the parameters can be there or may not be there. It is not a compulsory. It depends of the varieties of the types of the constructors. So a function name or a constructor can be created with parameters or with arguments, or without arguments can be created. Then these constructors should be accessed only in the public section, not in the private section. That is, this access specifier only in the public section rather than the other access specifier. So now we can see again what is a constructor. A constructor is a special member function in C++ that plays a crucial role in initializing object, that is data members, when they are created. What will be the definition? As the constructor name will be as the same class name. Constructor have the same name as the class they belong to. Then return type. Unlike regular function, constructor do not have return types, not even void. So they do no have the return type even as in void. Parameters. Constructor may or may not take parameters. So constructor can be created with parameters or without parameters. Then about access specifier, they should be declared only in the public section of the class. So constructor in C++, this is allocation of memory to object, initialization of data members, making sure data members do not get garbage values. So constructor are a unique class function that do not have the job of initializing every object. Whenever any object is created, the constructor is called by the compiler. What it means is that is when we are creating the constructor, it automatically allocates us the memory of the object. That is, we need not to create an object, we need not to call the constructor everything. So these in constructor and class function, it does the job automatically. So whenever any object is created for the constructor, is called by the compiler automatically. Some of its characteristics. So what are the characteristics? Well known as the same name as the class name. Constructor function have the same name as it is of class name. Then they do not have return types. Then it may or may not be parameters. C++ has default constructor that called whenever a class is declared even if no function with the same name existed. So default constructor is called why it is when the class is declared, that is whether if a function is not there, then default constructor can be called. Then they should be declared only in the public section. They are invoked automatically when object is created. That is, especially we need not to call the constructor by using the object. So as soon as an object is created, it is invoked automatically. Constructors are called automatically. We cannot call it for the already constructed object. Syntax of the constructor. So here is three types of constructor syntax. Just for the prototype constructor, we are giving the class name and some list of parameters. So in next syntax for defining the constructor within the class and outside the class. Within the class, inside the class means we are giving class name, parameters and statement for the constructor definition. Suppose if we are defining the outside the class name, so outside which class name is there, we have to mention it outside the class. So for which class name, that is in program we can create many number of classes. Suppose even constructor can be created inside the class or outside the class. Inside the class means just the class name indicates everything. The constructor, suppose if you are creating the constructor outside the class, to which class name you are going to create, we have to mention the class name. So class name double set colon class name list of parameters, after that constructor definition should be there. These are the many types of the constructor: default constructor, parameters constructor, copy constructor. What will be the default constructor? If we are creating the constructor and if there is no parameters, no arguments, then that constructor is known as the default constructor. If when we are giving the arguments or parameters, say the constructor name, then it is known as parameterized constructor. Copy constructor is just we are copying from one class name to the another. So here some examples. That is default constructor means only class name, parameters means class name and inside we are giving parameters, then it is known as parameterized. Copy, so here we are giving class name, inside that constant class name old object. So which constructor we are going to copy, that class name should be mentioned here. This is an copy constructor. First we can talk about the default constructor. Default constructor, what will be? It is without argument as a default constructor. Default argument is an argument to a function that a programmer is not required to specify. So the programmer need not to specify this is a default, because without arguments in a constructor is mentioned as a default constructor. C++ allows the programmer to specify a default argument that always have value, even if it is not specified when calling the function. So for example, simple function integer my function, integer a comma integer b comma integer c is equal to 12. So here what we are doing, we are initializing the variable and declaring the variable. Concept of the default constructor. So here one simple program. What will be the program? Just we are taking the two values first. Class constructor. So class name is then constructor, and in public statement we are initializing the variables. Then we are creating the constructor. So we should create the constructor as the class name itself. Here the class name is construct. So we are creating the constructor name as a construct. Then we are initializing the variable a is equal to 10 and b is equal to 20. Then main statement. Default constructor called automatically when the object is created. So we need not to call separately about the constructor. So this is we are creating the object construct. This is the class name and C is an object name. C out we are going to print as C dot A and B is equal to C dot B. So it is automatically called, and A is equal to 10 and B is equal to 20. Output is printed. Next about parameters constructor. Parameters constructor means just as soon as we create constructor, we are creating with the parameters with arguments. So we are passing that arguments to the another. So this is known as a parameterized constructor. So what we are doing here, parameterized constructor make it possible to pass arguments to the constructor. So in this only we are passing arguments or passing values to the constructor. So here is just once that has parameters specified in it. We can pass arguments to constructor function when object is created. So here we are going to create the object and we are going to pass the argument by using the object. A constructor that can take arguments are called parameters constructor. Syntax, class name, inside this we are going to give the parameters, then body of the section. So here what we are doing, class example, class tester, then public. Here what we are doing, test is a constructor name, integer data. So here we are passing the parameters. So here what we are doing, we are creating the object t1 bracket 2. So these two are that is parameters we are passing this. One example for the ParameteriSed constructor. So here what we are doing, so here same as a class point private integer x comma y. In public we are creating the constructor as the class name is a point, and here it is a parameters constructor. We are passing parameters, that is integer x1 comma integer y1. So we are initializing this to the x and y values. Now copy constructor. Copy constructor is used to declare and initialize an object from another object. So here we are copying the class name from one constructor to the another constructor. So it is used to declare and initialize the object from the other object. So we can create a default constructor, parameter constructor. After that, if we create the copy constructor, just we can copy the content from it. Example, so like this we are doing ABC C2 and then bracket C1 would define the object C2 and at the same time initialize it to the value C1. So what we are doing is we are creating the object C2 and at the same time we are initializing the values for the C1. So this is the copy constructor. This process of initializing, we are declaring and initializing, so that is known as a copy constructor. So this is the syntax of the copy constructor, class name and class name. Here we are doing class name ampersand of object. So we are calling like this only body of the section. So this will be the object. Copy of the object will be what copy constructor means. That object is created inside that new object is created. Example of the copy constructor. So what we are doing here is, suppose for example class student is a class name. So we are initializing the register number, name and character and fees in the double declare. And then public, what we are doing is we are creating the constructor as the student, that is the class name, then integer comma character double. So we are going to initialize here. So what we are doing, copy constructor student in bracket student ampersand t. So this is the copy constructor. Next we are initializing the register number to the t number and the string copy name is equal to t. We are everything normal variable to the copy constructor t variable, everything p is equal to t dot p. Now we are going to display everything. So student, so outside one constructor student, here integer number character double, we are going to same thing, we are initializing everything. This is the normal constructor and we are going to display as a register number, name, everything. So in main function we are initializing the variables. First student s is equal to, student s is a normal constructor. So we are giving the register number, we are giving the number, name, after that fees, then we are going to display. After that, by using the copy constructor, now we are creating student method. It is another object created and here copy constructor are called by using this object display. So again same data is printed as an output.